Rob Dibble Show live from Clubhouse on Main and Glastonbury, getting you ready for the draft tonight. Who will your team take in the first round? And now we bring in Lauren Campbell. She is our Boston sports guru.
All right.
Lauren, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Fantastic. It's been a minute.
Been too long.
Let's start with the Celtics since that's our negative story. No Jimmy Butler on the Miami Heat. Got beat by the three-point shooting contest of Miami last night. What do you think they need to do in Game 3 to right the ship?
Yeah, I think it's really simple. I think they need to get back to playing their game. I think they kind of got away from that in Game 2. I mean, they let the Heat hit 53.5% from three-point range. You can't do that against a team like the Heat. And it just seemed like that Miami had an answer for absolutely anything the Celtics did. And the Celtics, they kind of got in their own heads about that. So they just kind of need to get back to the simplicity of what worked for them so well, not just in the regular season, but Game 1 as well, because they absolutely can and should be able to take this series in 5 games.
I was looking today at the box because I watched this whole game. It was just weird. The whole second half, I just felt like it was uninspired. I was waiting for Tatum and Brown to get mad about it. I was waiting for Mazzulla to go psycho, but it just seemed like it never happened. Porzingis 1 for 9. Is that concerning to see that? And how does he get locked down so well against Miami last night?
Yeah, it's definitely concerning when the person you bring in, big off-season trade to help you get further into the playoffs and help you win a championship title is shut down. And, I think it just kind of goes back to, again, just going back to what worked for them in Game 1 and maybe not overthinking the shots, not overthinking the passes. And now, the Celtics probably have an idea of what Miami will do in Game 3, especially when it comes to Kristaps Porzingis, because even though he was shut down, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum still combined for 61 points. So they were doing something right in that, in the offensive regard. But you definitely need to get KP going, and you need to get him more looks. You need to be able to get him more open looks and get him going because he needs to turn it on. And I understand it's hard when shots aren't going in or you're not able to get those proper looks. But that's when the other members of the team have to step up and make sure that he is ready to get the ball and take the shot immediately.
Talking to Lauren Campbell. She is a Boston sports reporter with Mass Live Sports. Let's talk about the Boston Bruins. And, Brad Marchand is not the biggest in stature, but he is the biggest pain in the butt when it comes to hockey and the Boston Bruins. He's their captain, and everything kind of revolves around him. Your thoughts on just that third period with him and Bertuzzi setting up the Frederick goal and then getting a couple of goals. So he had 2 goals and assists. But really, when he's on the ice, good things happen to the Bruins.
Yeah, and it's funny, I posted on Twitter that he needs to take more shots and he needs to get going offensively, and he did just that in the third period. I think he's somebody who's very difficult to play against. He gets under your skin. He's a bit of an agitator, saying things that are pretty obvious, but it was a really good response from the Bruins when the Maple Leafs get the lead. They go and score 28 seconds later. Just, being able to not necessarily distract the Maple Leafs, but Bertuzzi and Marchand are getting tied up at center ice. There needs to be more concern about what's going on at the net than what's going on between 2 players behind the play. You need to be aware of where that puck is at all times, play until the whistle. But I think this was classic Marchand and Bertuzzi, too. I mean, he plays a very similar game to Marchand in the sense of trying to be that guy who just gets under the skin of their opponents. So it was a really good response and really good to see that the Bruins did not get into the Maple Leafs didn't get into the Bruins' head, especially there were so many bad officiating on both sides last night, and the Bruins did not let it get to them. They were able to respond well, and a lot of that has to do with Marchand. He was incredible last night, especially in that third period.
Big Bruins question, I think, for most of the hockey fan is Swayman Ullmark. What's the situation with the goalies? Ullmark losing the game where they're down, or they tied it up 1-1. Swayman back in there. They get back to winning. Is it a thing where it's going to be alternating because you have to give some guys rest, or are the must-win games going to be Swaymarks from here on out, or Swayman's?
Yeah, I think this is a very good problem for the Bruins to have. And I think they're going to stick with the rotation and put Allmark in for Game 4. I think it should be Swayman. I think that he's just played so well. He's played out of his mind, and he's so good against the Leafs. Dating back to last season, I think he's 6-0. So it's just he's so locked in against Toronto, and I know you don't want to take Allmark out of the net, and you don't want to, mess up the rotation or the rest or anything. I mean, we saw what happened last year when they waited too long to go to Swayman in the playoffs. So much different this time around. I think both goalies are 100% healthy, or as 100% healthy as they can be at this point in the season. But I think this is absolutely Swayman's net until he loses it. And it's not that Allmark didn't play well in Game 2. He played very well. The offense just couldn't help him out. But I just think that with how well Swayman has played, you can't take that away from him right now.
Kind of, contrast the styles of Jim Montgomery and some of the former Bruin head coaches, and I thought they were amazing on the penalty kill, like you said, Lauren. Last night I think they had 6 penalties, and I think about 5 of them were just terrible calls. But what makes this team different under Jim Montgomery?
I think some of it is, they most of them were here last year, and if I'm Brad Marchand, I'm not having another 2023 postseason like how everything happened last year. He has more hockey behind him than he does in front of him. And this was a team that, wasn't really – a lot of people – not that they didn't expect them to make the playoffs, but I don't think a lot of people expected the Bruins to be as good as they were this season. I think it's a lot of stepping up in the absence of Bergeron and Krejci. I think it's also stepping up in the absence of someone like Nick Foligno, who brought a lot of vocal leadership, a lot of rah-rah, like let's get going, let a fire under this team. And I think because you don't have those guys to lean on, it's not like they're injured and coming back. Like, they're gone. With Nick Foligno in Chicago and Krejci and Bergeron in retirement, they're not coming back. And I think it's just the players really playing for each other. And it's cliche to say, but I do think that the culture in that locker room has a lot to do with how they play on the ice. They show up for each other. They respect Jim Montgomery. They respect one another. I mean, you hear sometimes about players, and not just in hockey, but in other training camps and practices, of teams going at it with each other because they're upset about how some play unfolded or something in practice, how it unfolded. Never really hear that with the Bruins. And they come out ready to play. They know that they're a historic franchise. They know they have their rivalry with the Maple Leafs, and they don't want to go home in the first round again, especially how last year ended.
Third pick tonight belongs to the New England Patriots. I need Lauren Campbell's top 3 possibilities of what the Patriots might do at number 3. Trades included, all the talk that you have been hearing after you put it in the blender and it comes out. What are your top 3 possibilities for tonight for New England?
Holy smokes. I feel like it could change every minute, but I do think that they draft Drake May. And the only reason they would not draft Drake May is if they get a trade offer that just absolutely blows their minds, that they're like, they cannot say no. They have to say yes right away. I think that's the only reason they would trade. It's a pipe dream at this point. I would love if they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. I just think he's someone who can make an immediate impact for a team. And maybe that's putting the cart before the horse here, but I just feel like from what I've seen, from what I've read about him, I just feel like he could come in, and the Patriots need wide receiver help, so I think he fits the need there. Obviously, the biggest glaring need is a quarterback, and I think that if it's Drake May available at number 3, that's who we're going to take. And if Jaden Daniels somehow is available at 3, they'll take him. I think that's 3 possibilities. Maybe 4, I don't know.
I like all of them.
Lauren, as far as the Boston Red Sox are concerned right now, 14-11, they're playing right now. They're losing 5-4. But with all these injuries, I'm very impressed by the rotation, one of the best rotation ERAs in baseball, the way they continue to battle throughout every game, playing really well for Alex Cora. And they certainly didn't do a whole lot in the offseason. Your thoughts on basically the first month of the season for the Red Sox?
If you told me this team would be above 500, I would not believe you. I'm definitely impressed with how they're able to win games. I'm impressed with this pitching, especially, you don't have Liam Hendricks to start the season. You lose Lucas Giolito for the entire year. You trade Chris Sale. Nick Pivetta goes on the IL. now Brian Bayo on the IL. Just so many injuries
True.
that I was like, this team is just going to roll over and be out of it by the end of April. But here we are, and they're a wild card team, I believe, if the playoffs started today. And yes, they're losing right now, but they came back from being down 5-0. It's 5-4. So they make it close. They make it an interesting game. I don't know if it's sustainable. I think that's the biggest thing. But there's a lot of, I think they had 12 or 13 players on the injured list. And just looking at that and looking at the players who are on there, I mean, you have big-name players. You lose Story for the year, a few games into this season. Devers has been dealing with knee and shoulder issues, but he's back in the lineup. Don't really know what you're going to do with Yoshida, but it's impressive. And I say that as they're having trouble fielding the ball as I speak right now. But
let's not watch
are,
that. It's bad.
They are. I don't know what just happened there, but they're just
It was a
bobbling
pitcher.
around.
I
You know what? Don't hit it to the pitcher.
Was it Booser? It wasn't Booser, was it?
No.
Oh, man.
No, he's left-handed.
No, it's Chris Martin.
Oh.
But I think too that the defense is the biggest thing here, as we're currently seeing, is that it's small mistakes that are just really should not be made at the major league level. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's what it is, but somehow, some way, the Red Sox keep finding ways to stay in games, win games, and be above 500.
Is this going to save Bobby Dalbec's career? Like, all these injuries. He's going to get so many
He gets
opportunities.
playing time now, yeah.
Poor Bobby Dalbec, man. Like, I don't know if he's just going to be a really good AAA player and just not a major league player. I don't know if he needs a fresh start. I feel like he's never going to get it because, like you said, these injuries. He somehow always finds himself on the major league roster, and he's such a nice guy. He
Right.
just, he goes where he tells to go. He does what he has to do, and he's not the best offensively. Maybe he's starting to find his stride when he's got a couple hits now, and maybe he's just got to get into a groove. I feel like I say that every year when he gets on this roster, but maybe one day he'll break out and be the player that many thought he would be. I don't foresee that happening, but I would at least, at the bare minimum, like him to be some sort of contributor, even if it's just defensively. Not that we need another Jackie Bradley Jr., but it's just something's got to give for Bobby Dalbec. I just feel so bad for him.
Yeah, you could hit better than Jackie Bradley Jr.
You guys and your Jackie Bradley Jr. hate.
Lauren, as always, wonderful to talk to you. Sorry it's been a minute, but we kind of got tied up with UConn for a few months. But now we'll get back to you a lot more. So we really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Lauren.
Of course, happy to come on, guys.
All right, enjoy the draft tonight.
Happy draft night.
Exactly. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and we'll do the first dibs question of the day. We are live from Clubhouse getting you ready for draft night as the first round of the draft is coming up tonight. Live from Detroit. I'm sure Eminem will be all over the screen because he's already been with Roger Goodell so far. But Ben, Rob, the rest of the crew, we're here in Glastonbury at the Clubhouse on Main. We'll be here all night.